I love that I can hear producer Xander's keys ticking away in the background. Welcome to day 3 of the MicroConf on air. We are trying this again with a new format. We have some fancy new software, and producer Xander is running it from his computer because he has really good Wi-Fi, and I am up on the north shore of Lake Superior today in a cabin, which has okay Wi-Fi as far as cabins go, but I didn't want to bear the burden when we've been streaming on YouTube. It's crazy the power that it takes to get all the video up. So thanks so much for joining us again. We're trying something new today. Actually, the last couple days there's been some Q&A, and yesterday Sherry Walling and I hung around and talked a lot about COVID-19 and dealing with that and kind of the mental side of that, how to be productive while you're staying at home. Trying something new today. Mike and I are going to chat for probably around 20 minutes, and we have a beverage in hand, and I am going to ask for, kind of a show of hands of who's got what beverage in the chat here. But then we're going to break up. If you're in MicroConf Connect, you can join that at microconfconnect.com. It looks like there were about a dozen, 15 people who wanted to actually get into Zoom and break up into smaller groups so they could chat once we're done. Because right now we've been getting between 30 and 40 people on these live streams watching it live, and that just would be too large of a happy hour call, to get everybody together and chat. So that's it. So it's an experiment, and producer Xander is working hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. And I figure everything will probably hold together, but as always, fingers crossed with live stuff. For folks who don't know, this handsome gentleman to my left, right, depending on which way you're looking, this is Mr. Mike Tabor, co-host emeritus of Startups for the Rest of Us, founder of BlueTick.io. How you doing this week, sir?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
It's been a while, been a couple weeks since we chatted. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you too.
First things first, I got to ask you, what tasty beverage are you partaking of now? And I do want to be clear, this just because it's happy hour does not mean you have to be drinking an alcoholic beverage. Mike and I happen to be, but certainly LaCroix water, juice, milk, these are all good things. How about yourself? What are you pouring?
I am drinking the Yamazaki.
That looks amazing. Single malt. Is that how many years?
I think 10.
Yeah, Japanese whiskeys, they are tough to beat.
Yep, it's quite good.
I am drinking Blanton's. So let me try to get this on the camera. It's 93 proof. It is super small batch, and I have to thank, I believe it was Allie Blum who sent me this bottle after she spoke at MicroConf a couple years ago. And it is one of the best bottles of bourbon I've ever had. And the fact that it has lasted this long in my house means that I'm really cherishing it because, frankly, typically these things go quite quickly. Look at this. It's almost like a D&D dice bag, too.
I know.
I love it. You have a bottle yourself, right?
Yep. Yes. I still have some left. I actually had some of that earlier before we started recording.
So you're pre-gaming our happy hour?
I was pre-gaming, yes. It's been a long week, all right?
Yeah, tell me about it, man. Well, speaking of that, but before we dive in, I want to thank Basecamp and Stripe. They're MicroConf's headline partners for this year, and as always, I just want to, thank them for being involved, and this all wouldn't be possible without them. I am curious, if you're in MicroConf Connect, in the MicroConf on-air chat room, I'd love to either see to hear what you're partaking of now, and again, as I said, water, soda, whatever, or alcoholic beverages. You can send a photo of a bottle. By send, I mean post into Slack a photo of a bottle. You can send a photo of yourself with the bottle, which if I was doing it, I would selfie it. Ashley Colpart's here from snowy Colorado. She says, drinking a glass of bread and butter Chardonnay. Yum. That sounds amazing. All right, so we'll get a few more of those as they go. The stream is delayed 20 or 30 seconds, I believe. So you were saying that this week was kind of a tough week. Why, Mike? Why could this week have possibly been different than any other week in the past?
Yeah. Well, my kids are home for the next 3 weeks. So yeah. Massachusetts is completely shut down, like all the school systems. And so adjusting to having both of them home and knowing that they're still going to be home for another couple of weeks. Usually if it's just 1 week, it's not that big a deal, but I know it's going to be a couple more. And my wife's business is basically shut down as well because she runs a fitness studio. So, the state mandate is, no restaurants, no fitness studios, no places that normally cater to people like can be open. So she's been working her butt off trying to get virtual classes going for her fitness studio, and that's been going well. And actually, I can hear her a little bit. You probably can't, but she's actually on a happy hour call for her studio right now on the other side of the
Wow, what a
house.
trip.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I know Allie. I know she runs the studio. I was going to ask if that could possibly still be open because I know most states have just shut down everything except for grocery stores at this point.
hmm
So
Yeah. So
her business is just kind of in a standstill then.
Well, sort of. So everybody's on a membership, so they're paying a monthly subscription fee. But because they can't go, like, how do you justify charging them? So I had talked to her about the idea of buying, using the money that they pay her for their subscription, and using some of that money to buy them like exercise bands, which are not terribly expensive, and she could eat that cost within the monthly subscription fee that people are paying her, and then she could do something online where they exercise at home and they're basically still getting the same instructors. And her members have loved it. Like they're because they're all most of them are at home as well, so they
Yeah.
can't go to the studio, they can't really go out, they're working from home, and they need some sort of outlet. So to be able to maintain that continuity for her members, they're just really enjoying the fact that they still get to see their regular instructors, and now they have this, additional equipment that they can use at home while they're kind of dialed into those classes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, all three of my kids take music lessons, and they are now one's via FaceTime, one's going to be Zoom, and one's via Skype, and it's kind of, and the instructors are my parents' age, so they have never used, a lot of them, they've used FaceTime, but a lot of them have never used Zoom or Skype, and I'm pretty impressed with the way this is kind of pushing them to do that. I know there's some remote fitness classes and stuff. Is that even something? I guess you could do it, but that would be a stretch, huh? To try to do Zoom fitness over Zoom, Zumba over Zoom.
Well, it doesn't. It's not Zumba. So she primarily runs like a spin studio. So it's
Okay.
all bikes, but
Got it. So it doesn't
so,
work as well. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
people they don't have bikes at
Have the
home,
bikes
so
at home. Yeah. Yeah, that makes
right.
sense. Hey, we have some folks chiming in the MicroConf On Air channel in MicroConf Connect. We got some beverages. Cronenberg 1664. We have from Sean Davis. Chocorua, a limited run rye from a local distiller. Bravo. We have LaCroix from Price Shoemaker. Tracy Osborne's drinking Ontario Craft Lager. Duncan Murtaugh, nice to see you. German wheat beer in Selbridge, Ireland. And Black Stellar Malbec Merlot for Gwyn. And Andy Peets is drinking Cross Strain. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but thank you. Chocorua. Chocorua, yeah. Anyway, so thanks so much for joining us on this first happy hour. It truly is kind of a fun thing to just be able to decompress for us. It's Friday afternoon for a lot of you. I know are in Europe, and that's going to be later in the Friday evening. But hopefully you are decompressing with this. So we talked about your wife's fitness studio. My wife, of course, does almost everything remote. She's a psychologist, but also a like a founder coach and a CEO executive coach. So she's been able to keep it going. She just does a lot of calls from home, and the strain on us has been Sherry and I both work from home. Neither of us really have an office. Our house is big, but it's not that big. And when you get 5 of us in the house, and she was on 5 webinars last week because everyone's saying, can you come on and talk to my audience about how not to be super stressed about, literally, she's like, I've never had so many webinar invites in such a short amount of time. So it has just been like trying to keep the kids occupied and keep them quiet, and then not to, I don't know. It's weird to work all day and to feel like, hey, even if I'm only going to work 5 or 6 hour days, that like I'm ignoring the kids, when they need to, they're kind of in the middle of homework and stuff and they need help, but I'm on a call like this as an example that I can't just stop in the middle of. That's been harder than I thought it would, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Have you had any of that with your kids?
A little bit. I mean, because even when they're home, usually I'm working anyway, so my wife's typically in and out. But I mean, my kids are old enough where they're mostly self-sufficient, except when it comes to lunch, because I don't trust them to not burn the house down.
Yep.
But I mean, other than that, like they're mostly, they can entertain themselves, and they do have a lot of, not a lot, but enough homework to kind of keep them busy too. So their teachers are making sure that they're reaching out through Google Classroom and making sure that they have things to do. Like even their gym teacher sent something home. So, it's not like they are lacking things to do. And of course, there's 300 billion screens in this household, so.
Right. That's not going to be the issue.
It's not the ideal thing, but
I mean, it's an interesting, of course. Well, not of course, but I've kept MacBook Airs that I've used previously, and I just will give it to the next child instead of selling it. I'll give it to a kid who uses it to learn to type, because I want them to have something with a physical keyboard, not just iPads. Because I believe that typing on a physical keyboard is a skill that we need to have, much like maybe handwriting is something we should have had 40 years ago.
Details.
But so I know. So the kids have varying degrees of really broken down MacBook Airs, but my son Finn goes to an inner city high school, and they're sending phone messages home and pamphlets home that's like, look, if you don't have a computer, you can come get your Chromebook from school. If you don't have Wi-Fi, there are no coffee shops open. If you don't have internet at your house, like there are no coffee shops, but here are like the list of churches, or you can come to the, and it's just like, man, I mean, as spoiled as we are with, I have gigabit fiber with a Eero, mesh router. It's like you take that stuff for granted. We work on the internet. That is our thing. And so when this happens, it hasn't felt devastating, or, at least from a technology perspective. But I can just imagine if none of my kids had, had MacBooks at all, or had computers at all, and it didn't have internet at the house. I mean, it'd be a really big deal, especially high speed. I mean, I can imagine, my dad's internet is really slow. Like he can't really do Zoom calls. Just becomes a whole different ballgame when we get under this, to this level.
Yeah, around here there's a company called Spectrum, and they offer internet access, and they've offered free internet access to people who are basically forced to go home and don't really have any other options, especially those people who, their kids going to school and they go home and they don't have internet access. So Spectrum has kind of stepped up and said, hey, like we'll offer free internet access to these people so that they can still get their schoolwork done, or if you have a job, like you can still get your job done over the next, 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks or however long it kind of takes. I don't know exactly the details of it, but yeah, our school system did the same thing with the Chromebooks. They said, hey, if you don't have a computer at home and you can't access the school material, let us know, and we will. And they called it out, they put text messages out, they emailed it out. Which, if you don't have a computer at home, obviously you're probably not checking your email either at home. But
yeah,
I mean, I've seen a lot of effort stepped up to try and alleviate many of those issues. And I agree, like we're kind of fortunate in the position we're in, but not everybody is. So I feel like it's nice to see that kind of effort or level of effort from people to, different companies to kind of step up and help out.
Yeah, I agree. Returning, I see some more beverages coming through. I see water. I see A&W root beer, bravo. Water for Lyle. I don't know what that is, but that's what Xander's drinking. And then a Talisker tenure. I'm super jealous of that. So a tequila. Water for life. Typo. Water for life. He put in water for Lyle as if it was for someone. I don't know. It seems funny to me. So, all right, man, we've been chatting here for, 10, 15 minutes. I'm curious, given everything that has been going on for the past week and a half, and just how, life has, it suddenly became so obvious. It's a trip, man. So it's Friday. Last Friday, just a week ago, the day before, we had decided to postpone MicroConf. I think that's right. I mean, it's been 8 days, and it feels like an eternity. It feels like a month. And I was up here with my other son, and Xander and Anar and I were just hashing stuff out, like trying to figure out all these details of crazy things. And it just feels like time has, like, so much has happened in this short amount of time. I'm curious, like, did you have this week, is there any major accomplishment that you feel like you accomplished this week with, I'm presuming with Blue Tick, is what you're focused on. And for folks who don't know, if you haven't listened to the podcast in a while, bluetick.io is, warm and cold email follow-up, but mostly focused on warm email, someone who is either in a sales funnel or it's someone who's maybe in an onboarding sequence, and you're just trying to make sure that they give you something and you want to do some warm touches. And so you've been shipping some features a little bit, and you've been actually doing a lot of sales calls and stuff. So I'm curious, what the week looked like, if it was more downtime, or if you kind of felt like you crushed it in any one area.
Um, I would say that, I mean, the one high point of the week would be that I think on the last podcast episode I mentioned how there was a customer that was probably worth north of $1,200 a month that I was going to be going through like some sort of a pilot program with them. So I started that actually earlier this week. So I had a call with two people over there, got them onboarded, and the biggest request that came out of the call was they wanted another font added to the editor.
That's wow. That's a big one. And you're like, well, it's going to take me a month. I have to hire a designer. You're like, do you want the Albert Einstein handwriting font? Is that what they want? Comic Sans?
No, they wanted the Calibri, which is the default Microsoft font that ships with Outlook, and I assume it's because they're an Outlook shop, and a lot of their target audience uses Outlook and Exchange Server, so they really need to have that font there so that when they send the emails, that's the font that it shows up in, so that when people see it, it doesn't look weird to them. Like if you see it's the same email, go to Google and Outlook, and I tried to explain this to them, but at the same time, they also told me that it's their boss that really likes that font and wants to see it in a certain way. So I just kind of threw up my hands. I'm like, there's really no way for me to convince him otherwise. So I'll just, implement this font and let it go. It's just not worth my time and effort to try and convince them to try and then convince him. It's just, why bother?
No, these are the battles. This doesn't make your app less usable. It's not like they asked you to add a bunch of settings. It's like one thing in a drop-down list, and it is a no-brainer, right? To get the customer, and B, it doesn't negatively impact UX. So
right.
I would totally do it. Yep. We have some people chiming in with, what they accomplished this week. Duncan Murtaugh says, I accomplished social distancing this week. Bravo, sir. That's something we should all be cheersing. And David Owen says, I was less productive, distracted by MicroConf Slack channels. So sorry about that. But
my wife and I have been practicing social distancing for almost 19 years.
Oh, man. Boom, boom. Oh, Mike, I love it. Well, here's the funny part, too. The other day, Mike said, you and I were texting, and you said, I have to be at home, not around other people. I've been preparing for this my whole life. And I was like, yeah, introverts unite, man. This is great. If only I could get people to my house to play board games or Dungeons and Dragons and still have social distancing. It would be perfect.
It's funny that all of my Dungeons and Dragons games have actually shifted to online. So I played one online already, but like all the other ones, there's three or four that I am somewhat involved in. They've all switched to online, so I don't have to physically see anybody.
It's crazy. I wonder if the repercussions this will have. Because I mean, Sherry and I go out in the evenings, once or twice a week. She goes out a lot to do. The biggest suffering for us, to be honest, is that Sherry works out once or twice a day and goes out to gyms and goes out to aerial. She does. The circus, stuff hanging from the silks. And that's probably the biggest thing that has impacted the family, I think. We also eat out quite a bit and we hang out with friends, but that's not something I need. Like other people, I'm not so extroverted, but not being able to have people over to kind of hang out and play some games and just chill is weird. And I actually did about a week and a half ago, as stuff was ramping up, I Dungeon Master a game for about 4 other people plus my oldest son, and I had them over and we all washed hands and we used hand sanitizer and washed the dice afterwards. I mean, I was being very over the top about it, but over the top's not the right word, but being very cautious.
It's over the top. That is the right word, I think.
Yeah, over the top. But it was uh-oh, did I freeze? No, I'm good. Yeah, and it was super fun, and that's I'm sad that was the last time that I've seen people that are not my family, except for when I checked out at the grocery store. Have you been to the grocery store? Is there stuff on the shelves in your area? Yeah.
I went about a week ago, and I just stocked up on a bunch of stuff. And what was it? Somebody else was telling me that, there are certain things that were completely out. Like there's the toilet paper emergency. The entire toilet paper aisle completely cleared out. I don't know why. Like all the hand sanitizer is currently gone, or at least at the time it was. I don't know what these people were doing before the coronavirus hit. Like maybe these just weren't washing their hands. I have no idea, but it's kind of scary to think about. I try not to. But there was, for the most part, everything was stocked. I mean, there were certain things that were just out for whatever reason, but I remember reading earlier this week that part of the reason why the like toilet paper and paper towels and stuff like that are off the shelves is because they make them on demand. So it's like as people buy them, they make more. But when like the market just goes out and just buys everything all at once, like they just couldn't keep up because they don't have like warehouses full of it. They just make it as needed.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Buying a bunch of toilet paper, it doesn't make sense. This is not a hurricane, you know.
No. Well, the other thing is like this is just a prime time to go out and buy like a bidet from Amazon too.
Yeah, I know. Right? I mean, that's the thing. We have other folks weighing in with their accomplishments, which is kind of cool. Brandon says, I've been getting my team settled remote and letting them know it's okay not to have a linear work day to take care of family. Sean Davis says, helped clients in various ways, including mobile apps and remote work, and move forward with a SaaS system that allows organizations to send micro communications. Mason Hensley says, new billing set up for enterprise client. Nice job. David Owens, online Dominion is beautiful. Just discovered it today. Got it. Yeah, I played Dominion. It's a tabletop game. So that's cool. Yeah, when I think about what I've been up to, a lot of it has been getting like Sherry's been she was on a lot of calls because her work days are harder to break up. You know, she might have 8 hours of calls in a day. And that's just not something, So like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for her this week, including the webinars and the calls, she's just on and on and on in the office. And so luckily our kids 9, 9, and 13 don't exactly need hand-holding, but one of them couldn't remember the logins to any of her things. The other kid couldn't find his laptop, so I did spend time doing that. I feel like I got several things accomplished. I got some podcasts recorded this week. I got some emails sent, but I think the biggest thing is keeping up with this live stream, this MicroConf on air, and getting that set up with Xander, with producer Xander. It's always interesting. On Monday, he and I had a conversation. Said, should we just go live every day and see what we can pull together? And it's like, sure, why not? It's only 30 minutes a day, but it's a lot more than 30 minutes a day. And so that's it is what it is, though. It's like if we're all going to be in our houses anyways for 3, 4, 5 weeks. I think that it's something we can pull off in the near term. Not something I could do every day for perpetual. If we actually had events to run, I don't think I could do this. So.
Yep. You should have asked me because the when I was in the middle of doing the public launch for Blue Tick, and I did those like 3 weeks, and it was 3 weeks of videos straight, and some of them were 10 to 15 minutes long, and there's a lot of mental headspace that goes into that. You don't think that there is. You're like, oh, I'll just pop on and do a video and it'll be live and it's not a big deal. And you think about it a lot more than you probably should.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, well.
Well, cool. We're at 25 minutes. And while I could talk to you for another 25 minutes, I feel like we should let some folks head off to their next engagement. And folks who are in the MicroConf Connect Zoom room. There's a link to that in the MicroConf On Air channel. Who I think I can hear your wife now.
That's my son, who's a little loud. He talks constantly.
Oh, that's funny. I have one of those too. But yeah, if you're in the Zoom room, I think producer Xander is in Zoom. What's up? Is that Luke?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have one kid up here playing iPad super quietly. So I think I already mentioned that, but he's a ham. He could certainly come into the background as well. But yeah, if you're in the Zoom, producer Xander is in there, and he will guide you on how if you want to hang around and together.
Together, but not.
I know. Together, but thousands. Well, I guess only several hundreds of miles apart at this point. But yeah, if you're in the Zoom, hang out. Xander will guide you on what to do. If you're not, thank you so much for coming and hanging out again for 25 or so minutes with us again today. And I'll be back on Monday at noon Central, Monday through Friday next week, although Friday we may push later again because it'll probably be a happy hour. But Monday I'm going to be talking with Einar Volset, and it's going to be based on a request we had in MicroConf Connect about what are funding options right now. Like if I want a little bit of runway, is it even possible to raise? Is it, looking at angel versus VC versus private versus debt versus things like financing, like Pipe.com, where it's revenue financing. And I'm going to bring Einar on. It'll be 30 minutes starting at noon Central on Monday. And we're going to bounce back and forth. Not an interview, it's a conversation, because we both have thoughts, input, experience on how we would go about doing that if we were in your shoes. So folks want to keep up with you, sir, they can head to @SingleFounder on Twitter, where you have not been for about a year. You haven't been doing much there, but no. You are at bluetick.io if they want to see the app that you're working on and everything you're pushing out.
Yep. I am going to go back on social media here in the near future. Just probably not today.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, y'all, it's been good seeing you. See you on Monday.
Bye, everyone. I know. I don't know. I'm not sure.